Live now. Welcome back. Welcome to the fourth and final session of today's event. Thank you very much for those of you who are staying until the very end. We know that it's getting late in Asia, but anyway, we will make the video recording available for those participants that wanted to connect but couldn't stay until the very end. Also because we saved the best for the last. We are here to discuss new ways of working and entrepreneurship, and also what's the meaning, or what we think is the meaning of entrepreneurship for the future of work. And we are very privileged. We are here with an amazing group of speakers. I'm going to introduce them in a minute, but let me start by introducing myself. I'm Giulia Ajmone Marsan. I'm the Director for Strategy and Partnership of the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, and we are co-organizing and co-hosting this online conference with the Asian Network. I'm also leading within my organization the activity of a platform to discuss and think about all things innovation and entrepreneurship in Asia and increasingly globally, that is called ESI, Entrepreneurship, Startups and Innovation Knowledge Lab. Feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. If you're curious, I will share the link later on. Hopefully I won't forget to do that. But now, time to start introducing our speakers. First of all, our senior speaker making introductory remarks, Fiorina Mugione. She has a very long experience in working across very different continents on issues related to entrepreneurship, inclusive and sustainable development, women economic empowerment, and much more. She was privileged with some UN agencies like UN ESCAP, UNCTAD. She's also worked with UCD and collaborated with many other multilateral organizations. Welcome, Fiorina. I will give you the floor immediately for introductory remarks, and then I will move on to introduce the other speakers, and we will start our panel discussion. Over to you, Fiorina.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to the Asian Network and ERIA for organizing this online conference, and also to Giulia for hosting the event. And I know you have a tough task because you set a mission impossible 4 minutes introductory speak, which obviously I'm going to break. I'm hoping for your indulgence because it's a very tough to maintain the remarks very brief and be comprehensive. I represent today GDSI. It's an Irish consulting company proposing the sustainable development solution to development partners around the world. So I've tried to summarize the future aspect of entrepreneurship, looking ahead and trying to stay optimistic because entrepreneurship is about creating new innovative solutions that are a promise for the future. So I've identified technological and demographic changes that will be influencing mainly the dynamics of entrepreneurship. And I see 3 key trends shaping up this. First is technology innovation should be seen in a very positive light. A positive aspect that emerged from COVID is that barriers to entrepreneurship have been lowered, particularly through digital. So it has become easier to become a global entrepreneur. Cloud-based technology has more than half cost in starting and running a business. It's also much easier to access new technology. Websites and platforms integrate a tech stack enable SMEs or entrepreneurs, startups to market products to a wider audience with better connection between buyers, sellers, and partners. Also, there are new opportunities that are coming from the green and blue economy that are demanding new products that provide experiences to the consumers. For example, just for the blue economy alone, the ocean economy will double from current level, adding 3 trillion to the economy. So future of entrepreneurship will be defined by digital, agility, resilience, and speed to market of new products that are sustainable mainly. So the second trend is an increase in social enterprises that are driven by a purpose, mainly what I say, doing well by doing good. So in recent years, there has been an increase in the social awareness of consumers that desire to contribute to businesses who use a percentage of their profit to help some causes, but also to business that are engaged in the community. They provide goods and services that are driven not by this purpose rather than profit, with the goal of improving the life of others. And they are, increasing. And connected to this is particularly in Asia, impact investing that is wishes to finance this part of social enterprises or impact investing, has developed significantly. In the region now, it counts for 11 billion deployed by the development finance institution. The second dynamic that I see, the demographic changes that I spoke about, is really people. So the future of entrepreneurship is millennials first, young people. They will be, particularly in Asia, the new force in the population. So the region has 60% of the world youth population between 15 and 24. And many millennials are already embracing entrepreneurship. It's now the first choice of young people in Asia that aspire to funding a company or building a startup over traditional paid employment. The other trend in demographics is that women are becoming more active in the workforce and in the economy. So I would say that entrepreneurship growth will be driven also by women. And there is little doubt that women entrepreneurs are becoming a backbone, particularly in Asia, as they recover from the impacts of the pandemic. However, we know that there are roadblocks to women to succeed as entrepreneurs. First, there are outdated and restrictive regulatory environments still in many countries in Asia. There is obstacle accessing finance for women, and there is fewer opportunity for enhancing skill and training. And there are underrepresented women in specific sectors that are more high growth. As a consequence, women entrepreneurs have less earning potential. So we need to address those gender disparity to make sure that women, particularly young women, can have access to science and technology education, training, and more financial resources. So there is a role for proactive policy to support women entrepreneurship by providing education and training, target financial services. I will skip, I wanted to also share with you the road migrants, but in sake of time, maybe we'll leave that for the discussion part in case you're interested in how migrants can contribute, since we have so many categories of migrants, particularly in Asia, also those that are escaping climate change challenges. So this is something that we need to look at, in my view, for the future, because there will be a lot of people displaced for several reasons. The other trend that I see that, despite all this positive fact that I have underlined, entrepreneurship often is not a choice, it's a necessity, because there is no other way of earning an income. And necessity entrepreneurs continue to remain very important for a majority of informal people that make their living out of selling goods and services and they haven't not even a chance to formalize their businesses. So we need to address the inequalities, and I would like to mention that in particular agriculture, because there is a challenge in Asia, as in many other parts of the world, of gaining more food security, to provide in the agriculture tools to make farming a business. Consider what we call agri-entrepreneurs at the same level as the high-tech startup, because first technology can be applied to agriculture, but also it's very important for poverty alleviation, but also to providing an enabling environment for farmers to deliver their food to the market in a different way. And again, by increasing income of smallholder farmers and increasing their productivity and maintaining a better balance with environmental resource base, we can achieve, the inclusion of agriculture in the realm of opportunity and entrepreneurship. So to conclude, and I will stay with you for the discussion, I think more support networks for entrepreneurs are needed. And the network should aim to facilitate the exchange of experience, training and mentorship. GDSI and also myself wish to further engage with existing networks and maybe generate new ones when needed to support entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fiorina. You gave us a lot to think about, and it's also a great summary of the conversation today, because the issue of migration, circulation of talent, and the one of tech and agriculture and startup, this is something we discussed already quite in detail in other sessions. So thank you so much for bringing again back into the discussion of session 4 this very important issue. Now, let me introduce our 3 panelists for today, for our last session. We are very, very lucky and privileged to have them with us. James Sancto, the co-founder and CEO of We Make Change. This is a company to enable anyone, anywhere to use their skills to support the causes they care about. They connect individuals and companies with social enterprises changing the world. Their change days also enable employees to make change, connect with colleagues, and also develop their skills in just a day. And we will be very curious to hear more about that very soon. Also, many thanks to Mallory Loone to connect and join the session with us. She's currently the co-founder of Work Inspires, a people engagement and development company. She was also a TEDx speaker for 4 times, an awarded coach through the World Human Resource Development Congress, and she also contributes back to society by frequently mentoring youth and startups through various programs. Thank you, Mallory. And also many thanks to Madhavi Shankar for being with us. It's really great to have you in the panel too. She's the co-founder and CEO of the mobile and web app Space Basic. This is an app platform to manage hostels and students' housing matters, including attendance payments and room allotment. And since the launch in 2017, the application, the company Space Basic, quickly grew from 6,000 users to 200,000 last year, and they are targeting 1 million users this year. In 2019, Shankar was also named one of the top 60 women transforming India by the Indian government and the United Nations. Welcome, everybody. Let's go straight into the conversation, and let me address the first question to James. I would like to ask James, how would he define impact entrepreneurship? And also, what is the role of entrepreneurship to progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, and more in general, to a more inclusive and sustainable development? Over to you.
Thank you, Giulia, and also thank you everyone for being here, and also Fiorina for those opening remarks, because some of those themes that you mentioned, I will just get into at the beginning of my answer to some of these questions and then go into some more detail as well. So, as you might be able to tell, I'm from the UK, and as someone from the UK, what do we do when we think about thinking of definitions is we go to an Oxford Dictionary. So what is the Oxford Dictionary for entrepreneurship? And that is setting up a business in the hope of profit, to paraphrase. Now, I studied at business school, and that is exactly what we were told entrepreneurship is about. So what makes impact entrepreneurship different? Now, the way that I define an impact entrepreneurship is setting something up to make impact. And there are 3 key characteristics that make this very different from more traditional entrepreneurship that many people would have heard of. Firstly, it's driven by purpose, not led by profit, as Fiorina mentioned as well. It's not restricted by legal status. These definitions between NGOs, social enterprises, and businesses become far more blurred, and I'll go into that a bit more in a second. And it's also led by a different set of entrepreneurs, also as Fiorina mentioned, often younger, often more diverse than the more traditional enterprises as well. And what do I mean when they're driven by purpose, not led by profit? Firstly, that is about these organizations and impact entrepreneurs exist and set up their organizations to make a specific impact, to address a social or environmental challenge, often because they have a very close connection to the cause itself. In terms of not being restricted by legal status, traditionally, NGOs have been seen as organizations that do things for good and companies do things for profit. Increasingly, impact entrepreneurs are setting up companies that are able to make profit because it gives them the greatest opportunity to scale by generating their own income and investment, making them financially sustainable while making social or environmental impact at the same time. And in terms of being led by a different set of entrepreneurs, We Make Change, we support more than 800 impact entrepreneurs in more than 100 countries across the world, many in Asia. And one of the things that we see is that often people who are impact entrepreneurs don't actually have a business background. They have a really close association to the cause that they are aiming to support, which is very different from the environment that I was brought up in, particularly at business school, where people have that business background, but are using that often to make profit rather than to address a specific cause that they really care about. So what does that mean when it comes to the SDGs, creating a more inclusive and sustainable world? Well, as has already been mentioned as well, technology means that in some parts of the world, people could get almost anything they want anytime, whether it be movies, clothes, taxis, food, they're all available with a click. Whereas when we think of some of these big challenges that the world faces, and particularly different countries and regions, is it's exceptionally hard for individuals to actually make the change that they want to see happen. So we can click pizza, but we can't help end homelessness, as an example. So the reason that impact entrepreneurship is so crucial to the UN SDGs is particularly for one main reason. The type and urgency of challenges that we face today, whether it be climate change, poverty, or even things like pandemics, as we saw with COVID, is that the type and urgency of these challenges that we face require different solutions. And these solutions need to be scalable. They also need to be innovative if we are truly going to address them. And that's why impact entrepreneurs that we see and have worked with, they often start with a really specific cause they want to support, and they develop an innovative and scalable solution while enabling themselves to be financially sustainable as organizations to truly address some of these global and regional challenges that we face as well. So impact entrepreneurs, I believe, and we've seen, are going to be some of the crucial people and one of the crucial sectors to actually help us address these huge challenges we face, just as governments and companies are as well. And that's why one of the things that I'll hopefully get a chance to talk about later is how we can all get involved in that process too. But again, that's just a bit of an overview about what impact entrepreneurship is and how it can help us to achieve the SDGs by 2030, which we've definitely got to do. So Giulia, back to you.
Thank you very much, James. Very interesting and meaningful definitions. So in addition to what Fiorina shared with us at the beginning, we continue our exploration about what we think entrepreneurship is meaning and will mean for the future of our societies and our world. Let's continue the conversation now with Mallory, and let's talk a little bit about skills. So there are a lot of discussions about skills needed to promote new ways, and let me also call them maybe modern ways of being an entrepreneur. We know that, we can be entrepreneurs also when working for an already established company. So I think that by now when people talk about entrepreneurship, it's not just a tech startup, it's not just someone establishing its own individual business, it's probably something more. And I would like to get your point of view. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Giulia. So I really like let me address the skills part first, then I'll address the second part of the question. So let's speak about skills, right? So let me deep dive a little bit into entrepreneurship. And a lot of people ask me, Mallory, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? I think you all know all the basic skills, business model, financial models, and things like that. But I think I just want to highlight a very important part of it, which is mental and emotional resilience. I think a lot of people don't actually talk about how hard it is to become an entrepreneur. And so when you have organizations that actually started doing things like network and groups to help support entrepreneurs, it's not just about financial support, but it's also about the own mental emotional resilience. So some personal story, a quick personal story I'd like to share. I myself, I've been in business about 9 years, so this is 9.5 years now. And one of the key parts about why I sold or gave up on my first business, even though I ran it for 5 years, is because even though I'm the co-founder, I felt like I'm a zombie in my own business. I can sleep 7 hours a day, go to work, and still feel like I'm exhausted. I don't know where the business is heading. What am I doing in the business? So I became a disgruntled employee in my own business that I started. And that's because I've lost the drive, the passion, the mental emotional resilience to actually overcome it. And I just couldn't. So I came to a point where there were a lot of disputes with my past co-founders and things, and I just didn't know how to handle the difficulties. I decided to just give up. And it really took a lot for me to come back because I had a lot of time to go and think about who I am, what I want. And so one key skill that I would like to encourage everybody to think about, especially the young people, because the world is such a hurry today, is to actually take time to get to know who you are, what are values, what are key things that you hold true to the business. Because those are the areas that will challenge you the most, and those are the areas that will get you going. Now, back to the part where businesses are doing entrepreneurship in a new way today. I'll give you an example in Malaysia. So we have quite drastic groups of entrepreneurs. So you have the tech group. Then you have those that if you go to certain parts like Johor, Terengganu, Kelantan, the different states of Malaysia, you will actually see entrepreneurs who are fishermen, farmers, and you're talking about 3-4 generations later. And that's entrepreneurship as well, but a lot of people don't see it because it's not tech-based, it's not that. And so with that said, these young generations actually, or these new groups actually would like to take on entrepreneurship and look at it in a different way of how do I balance between profit and impact. We talk about net positivity in business. So in other words, driving profitability and still giving back to impact, which is also why large organizations, I give an example, Petronas, which is one of the largest oil and gas is the largest oil and gas in Malaysia, actually have startup divisions within them who runs like a startup within the organization. So imagine you got a salary, you earn well, but you are building new innovative ways to make business impactful with positive impact and still generate profit. And it's a separate entity entirely altogether, different co-founder, different founder, different management, everything compared to a GLC. So these are also ways companies are promoting entrepreneurship, just not directly by saying, hey, you're going to start a business, but also through ways like, we help fund and support you, not necessarily through monetary, in terms of here's a grant, go and do your business, but through the network, the support, the foundation. So you just have to focus on ideating and generating impact. So yeah. Back to you, Giulia.
Thank you very much for these very specific examples, all very, very interesting. Now let's continue the conversation with Madhavi, and let's talk a little bit about moving around, experiences in different locations. So you yourself, you have a lot of international experience. If I'm not mistaken, you have been active as an entrepreneur, as an individual in places like Australia, India, and the US. So can you tell us a little bit more about how, these experiences across different places helped you during your entrepreneurial journey? Over to you.
So thanks for having me. And, just to add a little bit in terms of experiences, right? So I think I was in these different countries at different stages of my life that really helped me kind of draw differences or draw kind of, different abilities or skills that different people had in different regions to my company when I eventually started it. So when I was in Australia, I was an international student, going to school there. And I was able to kind of really, before I started my company, I was able to draw differences between the way student housing was set up in Australia, for example, versus how it used to be back in India. So I think the ability to really see that, be observant and kind of really have a kind of understanding or just an overview of how things work in different parts of the world, and draw inspiration and kind of really look at a problem solving technique that could solve a problem, let's say in India, might not be the same way people do things in Australia or the US. So when I built a company here in India, it was clearly to solve a very specific problem that I, as an international student, faced when I was, when what I saw in Australia versus what, I had an experience in India. So having said that, now we're in a phase where we are scaling globally, right? So it's not going to be a rip and replace model where what we've built for the Indian market is going to be a direct fit for the US market or for the Australian market. So I think, the whole experiences that I've had in these different countries really have given me the ability to interact with different customers or different potential customers, understand how they do business, especially, with what we are doing, and see how can we build a global product that is built for all, and not necessarily a geographic region. So I think entrepreneurship generally, I would highly recommend, if people have the ability, have the opportunity, they should definitely go backpacking to different countries and really observe how different cultures and different sets of people really work and function. I think that'll be a great kind of insight before you're starting a company or even starting a new phase such as entrepreneurship. I think that's a lot of indirect learning that you will gain from an exercise like that.
Thank you, Madhavi, for sharing your own individual experience. Now, let's continue our second round, and let's start this time with Mallory. I would like to ask you, and perhaps continue a little bit the conversation that we started with Fiorina and James, about, according to you, what are the key trends about entrepreneurship for future generations?
Okay, thank you so much for that. All right, so I'll tie back a bit to what I was talking about, net positive economy. So where companies' goal is to actually drive financial success and create positive impact at the same time. So with this net positivity or net positive future, what they call it, the new generations will look at social impact as a cause of where they want to see. Not necessarily just in entrepreneurship, but in employment as well. I'll give you an example, right? I've actually worked with a lot of graduates, and some of the key things they mention is, I joined this company because of the culture. They care for the people. I joined this company because this is their post-COVID impact report, the amount of charities they've done. And so with that said as well, coming back to the entrepreneurship world, a lot of Gen Zs and Gen Ys actually look for social impact related business. And so if you ask them where they start, at one point, everybody was going to the crypto and the Bitcoin. And then the next part of it, we're talking about climate change. We're talking about women empowerment. We're talking about, period poverty. We're talking about all kinds of refugees. You have seen more people skewing towards the word social entrepreneurship rather than just a 100% for-profit entrepreneurship. Now, with that said, however, there are a lot of countries have not really established how do you probably measure social enterprises or social entrepreneurship. So with that said, there's still a lot of work needs to be done in terms of helping this future generation to understand that, hey, social entrepreneurship is not that you have to give every cent that you earned to charity. It's also about you making sure that you can survive, you can take care of your family, you can give impact back. But on the other hand, how do you also build trust with those who contribute back to you to make sure that, hey, these are also ways that I earn the money, but on the other hand, these are impacts I've given back to society as well. So I think some countries have had a very good policy about it, but a lot of countries still don't. Even in Malaysia, we just had this social enterprise policy properly set up to a certain extent, like maybe 3 years ago. So a lot of this work still needs to be done. But on the other hand, we've noticed that trend where millennials are definitely moving towards anything that drives more social impact.
Thank you, Mallory. Now, I would like to go back to Madhavi. So you shared with us before, about the importance of different locations. Let me also call it circulation of talent to sometimes, establish and grow an innovative business. Can you tell us a little bit more now about Space Basics? And also, can you please tell us what we should keep an eye on when it comes to India, especially when we are thinking about trends, about entrepreneurship, but also new way to work and collaborate for the future? Madhavi.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, what we do at Space Basic is we provide AI-driven insights to universities to operate more effectively and reduce their costs with operations when it comes to student housing, food wastage, and operations just around the campus. And how we do that today is by automating all of their day-to-day tasks and communication that happen within a student campus. And along with that, we also allow or enable management to really make sense of the data-driven from these day-to-day transactions and make sense of it to reduce costs or reduce carbon footprint or reduce food wastage, etc. So that's what we do at Space Basic. Now, I think the way I stumbled into this problem is obviously by personal experience, but also by doing a market research where we found that digitization in general in segments such as universities usually is a little slower compared to other segments or other market areas or industries. Now, speaking of trends, I think what we've seen, post-COVID here in India is there's a drastic, very bullish digitization that's happening in various sectors such as education, payments, finance modules, also in terms of logistics and in these regions. And I think what really COVID has also kind of expedited this entire digitization process for India. We're seeing, the world's, I think, second largest the youngest population lies in India between 18 to 32. And we're seeing more people having access to the internet, having more access to mobile phones and data, right? Which is kind of enabling companies to bring these users on their platform. So we're seeing a lot of logistics trends picking up because people want it now, people want it fast. So we see a lot of these grocery apps and a lot of logistics company really picking up pace. Also education, it's been in the far end of digitization, and COVID has really taught universities and a lot of educators that, technology is the need of the hour, and that's what's going to bridge the gap. So we are also seeing a shift in, mindset for adopting technology in payments. And I think India has done a fabulous job of payment transition. We see even vegetable vendors on the road who have a QR code where you can use, to make payments to them these days. So it's been a drastic shift from, I would say, 2-3 years ago. And these are the trends you would definitely want to look out for here in India.
Thank you. I think I got disconnected for a couple of seconds, but here I am. Thank you very much, Madhavi. So we have been talking about digital technologies, skills, impact, entrepreneurship. Now I would like to go back to James for our final questions for today. And I would like to talk about collaboration. So I would like to hear from you about new ways of working and especially new ways of collaborating. Also, we are talking a lot about remote working, new ways to connect with people thanks to digital technologies. And I don't know, I have this feeling that entrepreneurship is becoming more and more collaborative, especially, when we want to achieve impact. What are your ideas on that?
Absolutely. And one of the things, just me going back to my business school days, is that you do a lot of work on competition, but zero work on collaboration. And that is something which, again, is baked in partly to the educational system, but also how business is typically run. Whereas today, the way that we like to think about it, that we make change in terms of how do we address these big challenges, is collaboration is key. And the way we sum it up is that we think that startups have the solutions, people have the skills, and connected, we can change the world. What do we mean by that? What we mean is that the solutions and those skills aren't evenly spread around the world. You've got incredible solutions to different, environmental and social challenges, and people who have the skills that those solutions need, but don't happen to be in the same place. So how can we bridge that gap to address these big challenges that we face today? And part of that starts with when we talk about those impact entrepreneurs, and let's particularly focus on those early stage impact startups, is often they have those innovative, scalable solutions we were talking about, but they lack the skills, time, and funding really to scale. On the other side, you've got individuals all across the world, many of whom I'm sure are on this call, who want to make impact, but find it really hard to discover the right opportunities for them. In addition to that, you've got, particularly bigger corporates who want to make more impact for a lot of the reasons that Mallory mentioned, particularly, but employees also aren't given the right opportunities to really make the change they want to see outside of their day-to-day work. So how does collaboration happen in this space? The key thing we really need to do is ensure that we are finding and supercharging those impact startups who have truly scalable solutions to these grand challenges that we face. And then what we need to do is we need to ensure that individuals who have skills that those startups need can support them with even just a few hours of their time to really help supercharge their growth, whether that by being given things like, marketing support for just a few hours a week, legal advice and guidance, finance support, almost any skill you can think of, those startups need, and literally the few hours of time, any individual can help support them wherever they are in the world as well. And then when it comes to companies specifically, of course, companies are some of the biggest resource holding organizations in the world. Also, they've got these really passionate, highly skilled employees who also want to make a difference too. And that's where companies have often seen things like corporate social responsibility and ESG, environment, social and governance, all around things that they can do internally as a company. And also when they do anything externally, it's much more philanthropic. Whereas one of the most effective roles that companies can play in this new realm of collaboration is by enabling and empowering their employees to make the impact they want to see by supporting some of these innovative, scalable solutions outside of their organizations. If we do all of that together, that'll mean that we can really supercharge those impact startups. Individuals can feel super empowered because they are actually helping to make the change they want to see, while employees are feeling increasingly engaged and also understand that their company they work for is driven just as much by that sense of purpose as it is by profit as well. And finally, Giulia, as to one of the things you mentioned, as horrific as the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic was, one of the things that really has helped to accelerate is this transition to not only a more digital economy, but more digital ways of working. And increasingly, whether it be early stage or later stage organizations work remotely, which gives literally anyone in the world who does have the fortune of having an internet connection, the opportunity to be able to support them as well. So again, there's huge opportunities for collaboration, but we really need to embed it into all aspects of the economy, and particular the impact entrepreneurship network. And then again, we truly can address those challenges that we face across the world.
Thank you, James. Very, very well said. And again, even us, we wouldn't be here doing this event online if it wasn't for the pandemic, perhaps, because we're not used, to brainstorm together and connect in the way we are doing now. And let me just quote what somebody said, during the first session of this event. Collaboration is also important because we don't do over and over again the same things. We don't want to just, replicate what others are doing. Sometimes it's much easier to join efforts to speed up and, catalyze innovation. Okay, well, excellent. I think we are coming towards the end of our discussion, and it's probably time to close, especially because those of us who are in Asia, it's getting probably late in the afternoon. But before closing, I would like to hear back again from Fiorina, because I'm sure that she has probably a few very interesting comments to add to the conversation. Fiorina, over to you again.
Well, I have to say, the ability to gather remotely is great, and we are learning to do it better, and there are more tools. I didn't know this platform, and it's quite user-friendly. But I have to say, I was this week at the WTO Public Forum, which is the first large event that has been going on in Geneva after 3 years. And it's so good to meet in person again that I have to say, I encourage whenever we can meet as a face to face. Let's do it, because the human connection is much greater. You have coffee breaks which are fantastic to network. And you can enjoy lunch, and the social part of an event is also very important. So I cannot invite you for lunch or dinner, but consider as done. Maybe we share a recipe so we can all, connect and somehow emotionally by sharing the same food. So that's one thing I will send you through Giulia. A nice recipe that you can do fast and quick and enjoy your lunch or dinner, whatever it is. But more importantly, if we come back to entrepreneurship, I like to make some comments of what James and Mallory in particular have said. There are extremely challenging starting a business, running a business. And you need soft skills of unprecedented nature to develop those different competencies and behaviors. I run a program at the UN based on soft skills and entrepreneurial behavior, and this is so much of need, because we don't teach in any grade school how to develop this leadership ability or planning or resilience or persistence. Those that are really can be taught and you can learn. Another thing you have to do as an entrepreneur is learn to fail, because it's part of the journey, and as it happened to Mallory in her you don't always do it right the first time. It is very tough. I started myself a business which failed, and I couldn't go back to it because it was such a personal difficulty to digest. But I now, that I can look back, and that experience had taught me a lot. So even if you fail, it makes you advance a lot, and probably you have to fail at least once to get a business right. And we have to learn to accept failure and not seeing as at the end of the world or something that doesn't enrich you, because it does. And as a society, you have to learn to accept failure as well, and provide the tools and the policy framework to allow people to explore. Because if you're starting a new things, a new product to the market, new services, there are things that, you cannot plan everything. You have to test your product. You have to be the ability to fail, particularly if you are innovating, anticipating the product to the market in a way that, it's original, and that's what we want to encourage. So do we have all these tools? In many countries, we don't. How those networks that we have around can help putting this into place, and particularly I like to leave the message that policymakers in many countries don't have a good closing a business policy or strategy, and that scares a lot of people. And the risk taking is also can be taught, and it's one of the characteristics that the entrepreneur has to develop. And there are ways also sharing experience, the mentoring, the tutoring, the fact that we can talk and encourages other people to explore. So I was really grateful, Mallory and Madhavi, to learn how their experience in their own personal life has helped them to identify a problem in the market or a solution to provide, and so that that's the way that you start a business. You come up with identifying a problem or a solution that you want to bring to the market, and then you have to go build it. But you can't do it alone. This is another thing that I think it will change in the future. Before we have this one person in a garage that will make the miracle happen. I don't think this is the right way for the future. I think you have to be able to build teams, working teams, and the interpersonal skills with human and robots, because the robotic is coming in our future work in many ways. We have to learn to deal with bringing not just success for yourself. If you want to be impactful, be part of a community, be part of a team. It's important for entrepreneurs. So it's not only a solo journey, I would say. you have to connect, particularly if you want to make an impact and you want to fight for a cause, which is increasingly, as James has well explained, the wish of many young people. They come to entrepreneurs not because they want to start a business, but because they want to have an impact, they want to fight for the cause. Then you have to be connected. You cannot do it alone. So in that spirit, I'll leave you with those words before lunch, and get my recipe ready for you, so you can do dinner or whatever you're doing on your side of the world. And I hope you stay connected. And in a way, we can always do more things together. So I hope that this is not a solo event, that we'll manage to share more and do more together.
Thank you, Fiorina. We are all looking forward to getting
Back
your
to
recipe.
you, Giulia.
Yeah, thank you, Fiorina. We are all looking forward to getting the recipe, and absolutely, we hope that we will have the chance to meet in person. Let's remember that again. I mean, digital technologies are not replacing human-to-human interaction; are just a great addition to what we were used to do before. And again, I guess that what you said, I mean, is also very important to keep in mind for those of us who are not entrepreneur. I mean, even if you work for an organization, when you never fail, maybe it means that you are not innovative enough. So everything is too much under control. So we really need to learn to work in that way. And you said it very well. I mean, it's not a solo journey. We can do many, many more things by collaborating. And that was also perhaps one of the goals of this event, to connect with different people around the world and stay in touch for the future. Thank you so much once again to all of you for all your ideas and your thoughts. It was an amazing conversation from session 1 to now. I think it's now time to close. But once again, thank you very much. And please also, for people still connected with us, if you want to connect in different ways, you know where to find us. Thank you very much again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.